All right, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me well now. So I hope you have a nice day today. Have you learned something new today? Yeah, great, great. I see silent question on some of your faces that screen is empty and nothing is shown there. Guys just suggested me to show at least kitten there, but I didn't have a time to find even a kitten. So, unit testing yourself, what does it fucking mean? Well, honestly, a few of my peers came to me recently and asked, Alex, what are you going to talk about? What does it mean, unit testing yourself? Can you say us few sentences explaining what does it mean, because your nose doesn't provide any answer. And the problem with it was I failed to answer. Not because I don't know what to talk about, but because the topics that I wanted to cover originally was so huge that I would need at least a few hours to talk about it. And I'm not sure that you would like to listen to me even for 40 minutes that I have here. So instead of that, I decided to talk about small part of our engineering life. But this small part is very, very important step in our careers. And this step happens at least a few times during our careers. And the problem with that step is that this step is under-described anywhere. If you will Google it, you will not find any suggestions how to pass this step in your career, how to pass it successfully. And what I noticed is that all engineers are really afraid of this step. Their hands are trembling each time when they hear about that. Do you know what I'm talking about? No? It's an interview. Everyone is afraid of interview. Everyone is hate interviews. People don't know how to behave at interviews. And you may ask me, why the hell I decided that I may tell you something about that. So my name is Alex, I'm from TopTel, and as you may or may not know, we match talented people with clients who are able to pay for their talent. And we know something about interview because we interview a lot of designers, a lot of developers, and also we're hiring like crazy because we're growing, and because of that we're doing even more interviews right now. And the thing that I noticed is, despite the fact from where engineer is, what is his culture, what is his background, people are always afraid of the interview because they don't know what the people on the other end expect from them. How do they evaluate them? And that's the problem. So today I would like to tell you few secrets about the interview, what people on the other part of the table are thinking about you when you pass the interview. So I hope that after this speech, you will not afraid of this and you will be able to use this knowledge with power. So, as I said, there will be no slides because this is the last presentation today. I don't want to crack your heads with any numbers, code snippets, or charts. So, before I get started, I suggest you to do the next steps. Relax, lay back on your chairs, put your fingers like this, do and close your eyes and listen carefully to what I say. So, each interview, despite of the company which is doing it, is split under 4 stages. I will provide my own names for these stages. You may use these names later, or you may think about better names, but anyway. The first step is preview. The second step is idioten test. The third step is coding part. And the fourth step is the culture fit. And it depends on the company that is doing these interviews, and these steps may be split among different interviews, or they may happen into one interview. It doesn't actually matter. So let's go over each of these steps. I will describe what your potential employer is expecting of you on each of these steps and how you can meet these expectations. So the first step is the preview. The preview is the step, it's a very easy step, and it looks like it sounds. The preview of yourself. So what your employer is doing on this step, they review your LinkedIn account, they review your CV if you have it, and they review your GitHub. So how can you improve your chances to get your dream job on this first step? So the first thing is your CV. And no one actually reading your CV, honestly. I read a ton of them, and no one will list all these 10 or 20 pages that you listed there after 2 years of work. It's incredible. No one will read about it. And no one will read such obvious things like, I was a team lead and my responsibility was leading the team. No way. No way. And don't write these obvious things there. Write only few sentences, but they should describe you as a good engineer. I mean, write about your achievements. Something like, we've scaled our database up to 10 million, I don't know, whatever it was. So write about your achievements. Write about things that make you outstanding. And honestly, you may put even 10 years of your experience into a single page. It will be much better for your interviewer because they will evaluate you better because you saved their time and you listed only important things. Next thing is your GitHub profile. So why do you need it? Just because you need to show what you're worth for. And it's like in sports, you know. For example, in NHL, they have draft process, and during the draft, they don't call players and say, how do you usually play? Which type of helmet do you prefer? No, they want to see how do they play. So your GitHub profile is the thing when your employer may see what things can you do. And please don't put everything that you've ever done in your GitHub because it's crazy. I've seen a ton of GitHub profiles where people list 10, 20 projects and they're useless. They're not interesting. Put only one project, but make it clean, outstanding project. Even if it's simpler, make it really good. And that's the end of the first step. It's pretty easy to complete this step, but don't be fooled by that because results of the first step is very important. Based on estimations that you will get, people on the second and third stage will evaluate you differently. If you've done the first step correctly, your estimations on the further steps will be higher. People will respect you more because you're professional. The second step is the idiot test. And again, it looks like it sounds. This step is pretty simple and short interview usually. It shouldn't take more than 30 or 40 minutes. And it's about simple questions like, what's the difference between this operator and that operator? What will be happen if we will sort this array like this or like that? Would be there an error or not? And during this interview, usually this interview starting with something different. Usually at this stage, your interviewer asking you to tell something about yourself, tell about your previous experience, and very, very important thing on this stage, and people ignore this thing, is what questions do you have for us? And no one usually have any questions. And please don't consider interviews as a single direction road. This is not about your interviewer asking you any questions. It's about they understanding who are you and about you understanding, do you really want to work with these people? If their questions are too stupid, do you really want to waste your time on them? It's about you and about your potential employer. So have your questions. And don't ask such stupid questions like, do you use GitHub? Do you use Mongo? Do you use MySQL or Postgres? Do you use CI? No. This is not important, at least right now. Ask more important questions, something like, okay, what's the position which you want to put me in? What will be my responsibilities? Can you show me the team with whom I will work? Because this is important. And during this interview, the technical part of this interview, again, is pretty simple, but don't be fooled by the simple questions. Pretty often, behind the simple questions, really complex answers are hidden. And you're evaluated about how can you think on this stage. How deep is your knowledge of even simple things in the tools that you are using? So again, idiot test is pretty simple to pass, but statistics shows that 70% of people fail there. So keep that in mind. This the third stage is coding test. And again, it's pretty obvious what should happen there. And most companies do pair programming on this stage nowadays. So again, few tips about this part. It's really easy to say rather than do this thing, but don't be nervous, because I've seen a lot of people who failed this stage because they were too nervous. They're smart guys, but they were so nervous that they couldn't write anything, anything. And you should give them tips how to do this or that. So don't be nervous. On the other hand, you have the same person as you. He's afraid of you as you afraid of him. Believe me, I know that. So you may be smarter than him, and he's afraid of it. It's true. So don't be afraid of it, and don't rush things on this stage. It's better to complete, let's assume that on this stage you may have 2 tasks, and it's better to complete only 1 task out of 2, but do it perfectly fine, and you will pass this stage, rather than do 3 of them, but with awful quality, without any comments from your, and ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking questions on this stage, because again, tasks usually describe there very simply. So you will forget about any edge cases, you will forget about problems in the description. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask, what if I will do this? Should we expect that? Should we consider this environment or not? Ask as many questions as you may ask. It will be huge bonus for you, huge bonus, incredible bonus for you that you are asking right questions, because you're engineers, you're not developers. At least start to consider yourself as engineers. And the main thing that engineers should be able to do is think, and the problems that people don't like to think. So try to fight this thing inside yourself. I know that you're nervous during the interview, but relax. Remember this thing, relax, lay back on your chairs, put your fingers like this and do It helps, it helps. So that's really about it, about this stage. It's pretty simple if you know these simple rules. And one more thing, after each task, be prepared to answer side questions. There always will be side questions, something like, why did you do that? Why not that? Why did you decide to use this method? Why not that? Why do you write it as module, not as a class? And something like that. What about complexity? What about other solutions? What about other databases? And the problem on this stage is people starting to use buzzwords, even if they don't know what does it mean. For example, recently I've been interviewing for one engineer, and we had a SQL, and I asked him to write a SQL query. It was pretty simple query, but I asked him, okay, let's assume that the table will be much bigger. How would you improve the performance of this query? And instead of asking something similar, something obvious like, all right, I will add an index on this column and something like that, he started to use buzzwords. He said, you know, a few years ago we were scaling our Postgres database and we did a great job. We were changing this parameter. I said, all right, and why did you change that? What is the meaning of this parameter? And he couldn't say anything because he didn't know what's the meaning of this parameter, because he just read about this in the tutorial, and he was honest and said it to me after the interview that he was lying. He's actually read it in the tutorial and wanted to show himself as a very clever person. So please don't do that. People will, well, people on the other part of the table hate such things when you lie to them. It's obvious. Don't do that. If you don't know something, that's pretty fine. You have a lot of time to learn it. And it's better to show what you can do now rather than trying to pretend that you're handyman, that you can do whatever it's possible to do. So that was the third stage. And as you may see, if you know a few small secrets, it's pretty easy to pass it. And the last stage is the most relaxing stage, is the cultural fit. And during this stage, you just talk to people at the company, to one of them, to project manager, for example, to CEO, VP, for example. It depends on the company, or team lead of the team where you will be working on. And this stage, again, be yourself, because nothing bad really can happen there. I've never seen that people were failed at this stage, because Well, you just talk about life. You may talk about weather. You may talk about which glasses do you prefer to wear. You may talk sometimes about technical stuff. But the main thing of this part is just to understand you as a person. Can you formulate your words into sentences? Can you talk to other people? And I will open one hidden secret. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't know it, but the software development is not about coding. No, really, it's not about coding. It's about communication. And if you cannot communicate your ideas, if you cannot communicate what inside your brain, you're a bad team player, and no one will accept you. So that's pretty much it about passing the interviews. As you may see, it's pretty simple. It's very simple. It's incredibly simple if you know the strategy. And having this said, I want to end this presentation with magical words. These magical words have been driving our company for ages. These magical words is fuel for top-tile core team members. These magical words, you see how I'm motivated, yeah? These magical words are the motivator for us. And they're driving us towards great features. And the magical words are, stay cool and keep rocking. Keep rocking. Hell yeah. Guys and girls, if you have any questions, if you would like to hear any clarifications, maybe something wasn't so clear as I wanted it to be, just ask the questions, or you can catch me somewhere else and I will answer them. Thank you.
So, we will have lightning talks in 10 minutes, and you can grab a coffee and then listen to guys.